So over the past 3 weeks, we've had many different developments. Some good stories, some bad stories, but the majority were all bad news. Now we have some good news, and this is going to be good news for millions and millions of people. So make sure you stick around for this entire video. I'll explain exactly what is going on. So today, we don't just have one good piece of information, we have two things that are potentially really good news for the American people. Now, one thing I can tell you is we have been a little bit short on good news. And so this is finally starting to happen. Look at this. Here's the first piece of good news. The Senate now strikes a deal putting together a minibus bill. Now, what is a minibus bill? Well, we're going to go over what they are trying to do, but the best part about this is we have until November 17th to get a government funding bill, or else on November 18th, the U.S. government would shut down. We would see certain agencies shut down. You won't be able to call them. You won't be able to get an appointment. They would be shut down. This would impact millions and millions of people as they would be furloughed. If you are a federal employee, there's a good chance you would be furloughed, which means you could either be pretty much let go, where you go home because you are deemed a non-essential employee, or you would be deemed an essential employee, which means you have to stay in work. However, you do not get paid. Well, let's go ahead and read this article from The Hill. It says right here, the Senate struck a deal on 3 bipartisan government funding bills on Tuesday, allowing lawmakers to move forward on legislation the chamber has been working to advance on the floor since last month. This has been going on since I believe like September 12th. It says Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer announced a long-awaited deal of amendment, teeing up more than 3 dozen amendments for consideration in the coming days and final passage of the trio of bills better known as a minibus. Here's where we get a little bit of information. It says the package would provide funding for military construction and the Departments of Veterans Affairs, Agriculture, Transportation, and Housing and Urban Development. If we scroll down here, it says Senator Susan Collins told reporters late last week that lawmakers are closing in on a deal on the minibus after Schumer worked out a deal with Senator John Kennedy to allow a vote on an amendment that would allow military veterans whose finances go into conservatorship to keep their firearms. Now, one thing I can tell you is there's going to be amendments. There's going to be changes to this bill, but the good news is they finally have it. There is a chance we see voting for these bills start today on Wednesday, October 25th. So that is good news there. What this could mean is we could see passage of these bills in the Senate sometime next week. Yeah. So we are going to be about 2 weeks away from about 2 to 3 weeks away from the U.S. government losing funding. But if we can get closer, and this is the big thing, if we can get close to an agreement or potentially have the Senate pass this bill sometime in the next week or two, that would give us enough time to send it over the House of Representatives. They can go and negotiate, pass this bill, and then hopefully, if it has to go back to the Senate, it does. It gets voted on there. Then it goes to President Biden's desk for a signature. Here's where things are starting to take a little bit of a backseat. Right now, and again, because the Senate is not the one that is normally putting together these government funding bills. This is normally coming out of the House of Representatives. The problem today is that the House of Representatives does not have a Speaker of the House. Over the past week, we have seen 4 different candidates actually 3 get rejected. And now we're on our 4th one. Okay? We have spent 22 days without a Speaker of the House. We've had 14 different candidates. We've had 4 nominees, and we've had 3 floor votes, which all 3 did not produce a Speaker of the House. We've went through Representative Steve Scalise, Representative Jim Jordan, and Representative Tom Emmer, who backed out yesterday. Now the new person that the GOP has pretty much nominated as their speaker nominee is Representative Mike Johnson. Now, let's look at this. This is take 4. Can Mike Johnson get 217? Here's what they're talking about. 217 is the number of votes that this person would need in order to become the next Speaker of the House. But here's something else you may not know. In the voting process, you can either vote for a specific name. So there's going to be over 400 lawmakers that are going to vote. And if they vote for Speaker Mike Johnson, they say, Mike Johnson. If they vote for Hakeem Jeffries, then they say Jeffries. If they are not there, they can't vote. But if they are there and they don't want to select a name, they can say present. So when you say present, what happens is it actually brings the tally down. So essentially, you're citing, you kind of want to vote, but you don't want to say a name. And there's political reasons behind this. So just understand, when somebody says present, and one person said present the other day, when this person said present, essentially what they're doing is, instead of 217 is the magic number that you have to get, it actually brings it down. So then it'd be, if one person says present, it would be 216. So it just keeps dropping the total. So good news there is Representative Mike Johnson could potentially get this, but we will find this out today because that is when they are planning on voting. Now, what does Representative Mike Johnson stand for? What did he promise? Well, here's what he said. There's 7 priorities. It says right here, Representative Mike Johnson, in a letter to his colleagues over the weekend, he detailed what he would focus on if he was elected the House Speaker. Here are the 7 priorities that he said he would target. He would restore trust. That's a big one. He would advance a comprehensive policy agenda. He would promote individual members. He would engage members. He would effectively message. He would also build and utilize external coalitions. And this is one that they absolutely loved. He would develop and grow the GOP majority. That's what he wants. Okay? In his letter, he says this. The complex role of Speaker at this time requires a team player and a bridge builder with endless energy and a unique mix of skills and experiences. My extensive background in law, policy, strategic analysis, messaging, managing, networking, and building coalitions happen to have served as uncommon preparation for the extraordinary demands of this day. And they do. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But one thing that I can tell you is that there is a good chance the House of Representatives will have a speaker after today. I don't know for sure. We will figure that out as we go through the day. But as of right now, there are many lawmakers that are excited about Representative Mike Johnson. Now, one thing I can tell you is that there's a chance he might not be picked. There's a chance there's certain representatives that will step forward and pretty much block him from becoming the next speaker. If this happens, there is another plan being put in place. I want to show you this. I don't think this is going to happen, but I just want to show you this to put it out there. It says Kevin McCarthy, who was actually ousted as the former speaker 3 weeks ago. It says Kevin McCarthy floats proposal to return him to power and make Representative Jim Jordan the assistant House Speaker. Keep in mind, Representative Jim Jordan, he pretty much didn't get enough votes, so he had to drop out. He was the second pick. It was Steve Scalise, Jim Jordan, Tom Emmer, and now Mike Johnson. So what former Speaker Kevin McCarthy is proposing is put him back in power, which they already ousted him. So stick him back in power, and then right underneath him, an assistant Speaker of the House. That would be interesting. So that is something that he is proposing. I don't think that this is going to go through, but this is a secondary plan. So again, good news here is that there are plans to get a speaker into the, or somebody into the speakership for Speaker of the House, which is needed in order to pass government funding bill, in order to pass other legislation. So if you are wondering if there's any movement, yes, there's a lot of movement. And finally, we are seeing some good news across the board. So as we get more information, I promise I'll fill you in on all the latest news and updates. Again, thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Consider subscribing. I'll see you guys on the next one.